Kia ora and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Harry.
I'm Matthew, and behind us is the new Skoda Kodiaq RS.
That's right, the simply clever 7-seater SUV comes back with a sporty twist. Come on, let's have a look at this.
Originally called the Skoda Vision S, that concept car would go on to take on the name of a relatively unknown Alaskan island called the Kodiaq Island. And of course, Skoda being the brand they are, they had to add the little Q on the end there just to make it specific to themselves. That gave us the Kodiaq 7-seater family-friendly SUV in 2016, and that first generation car went on until 2024. During its time, it saw a facelift as well as the addition of an RS performance model, which sold really well across the world. And with the second generation car, of course, they had to bring back that RS sporty model because, well, there was just so much demand for something in this space, and that's what we have here today. The second generation Skoda Kodiaq RS. And on the face of it, it is very much recognizable as a Skoda product. So you've got that modern solid design language going on there. You note in particular subtle changes like the badge being a lot more flush. You'll see that on the inside as well, which comes as part of their move to try and make the brand more digital friendly in terms of its look and styling and appeal. What's different? Now on the face of it, of course, you have the RS badge there. Note it's got new sort of text and styling as well. Again, a lot more flush to make it appear more prominent in a digital landscape. This grille is blacked out now for more sporty looking. And note that the fascia and everything is more chiseled, it's more aggressive. Our car comes painted in graphite gray, but there are a whole suite of colors available with the Kodiaq and some that look particularly distinctive as well. Note the Bronx Gold review model that we had previously. The wheels themselves now on this RS model are the 20-inch Elias spec, and if you look hiding inside there, you've got red brake calipers for more sportiness and more complementary aspects to that RS badge. As you walk further down, the dimensions are actually unchanged. It's still on the better side of 5 meters. It still sits very much in that sort of medium-sized SUV space. But what's different are all those RS and sporty aspects of it. Note the contrasting black mirror housing and more body moldings that point towards that aggression and the sporty badge that the RS is wearing on the nose of it. If you look at the back of this car, you can see a few RS specific details straight away. So you've got that prominent rear boot lid spoiler. You've got, of course, the red highlighted RS badge over there. This diffuser across the bottom is also RS specific, as well as these visible exhaust tips that Skoda would like to point out. They're not quite connected to the actual exhaust tips, but they are prominent, and at least it is visible. So that's a start for performance cars these days. So nice work on that one, Skoda. The other thing to note is that it is, of course, a Skoda product, so it must be simply clever. And one of those things is the virtual pedal that they have to open the boot lid. Back here, it's almost like a treasure chest of Skoda Simply Clever features. So for starters, you've got the baggage hooks, you've got the button that drops the seats down, you've got all these nets and things, everything to keep your luggage and your groceries in place when you're really going for it, because you will in a Kodiaq RS. Now, something else I didn't point out earlier was the fact that this RS does actually make quite a bit of noise, but not all of it comes from these exhaust pipes. There is a very cheeky speaker hiding somewhere underneath the back over there, which gives you almost a 5-cylinder-like soundtrack. So to bust that myth, let's see what's hiding under the bonnet. Now, so far, a lot of the exterior bits and pieces and things that I've covered may be familiar to those of you who have watched our review of the second generation Kodiaq earlier on. And what could be more familiar than the sight we have under the bonnet here? For those of you who know the VW Group products, you'll see this straight away as their 2-liter turbocharged engine that's seen in a lot of their different models. In this particular Kodiaq RS, puts out 195 kilowatts of power, 400 Newton meters of torque, and gives you an average fuel efficiency rating of about 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers. Not bad considering that this is a 4x4 or a 4-wheel drive SUV. and carbon emission sits somewhere about 196 grams per kilometer of CO2. It is efficient, it's carbon friendly, all of that, but it's a performance SUV at the end of the day, and it will do the 0 to 100 sprint in 6.4 seconds, which is not bad at all considering that this seats 7 as well.
If we are focusing on the RS bits, we absolutely need to start by talking about these seats. They come in this carbon black color, the integrated headrests, and of course the RS logo embossed to the headrest. So it really just makes for a very special place as soon as you look into the interior. These seats also come with 3 memory settings. They're heated, ventilated, and have quite a lot of adjustment on the lumbar support. So that's really good. The other RS bits scattered throughout the cabin continue to the steering wheel, of course, that has this perforated leather around pretty much the entirety of the rim and the RS logo at the flat bottom. Then to finish it off, a detail that goes around all of these items and also the dashboard is this tomato stitching that you get in this red that goes across the whole cabin. And I'm not joking, this is the actual name that they chose for the stitching. And this being a 7-seater family SUV, of course the storage is a big talking point as well. So in terms of the center console in here, you get this part of the storage underneath the armrest, which is not the largest, but is very deep, so you can store some large items in here. Then at this part in the middle, you get 2 individual lids that you can scroll here to reveal parts that you can use as cup holders or maybe a place to put your key, your phone, and everything else. Up the front, you then get 2 individual wireless charging pads for your phones and a little bit of another cubby that will fit your wallet or some other items. And the great part is that you can just close this lid and hide all of these things away. In terms of the door bins, they are quite generous, and in the fashion of some of the cars in Skoda, they are felt lined so it will not make a lot of noise when you are going through the bins. But of course, this being a Skoda, there is no shortage of simply clever things that you will get in the interior. And I know that we have covered those in other cars, but it's always important to highlight small things like the parking permit holder that you get in here, or this small sort of a gadgety thing that you can use to clean the screen, or of course, the staple umbrella that you get inside of the door, or even while talking about the doors, the protectors that come out as soon as you open the door to protect your and other cars from dings and parking lots. Skoda knows that there has been a movement in the industry of people wanting to have more tactile experiences with the buttons that they use while driving rather than having to rely on screens. And this is exactly what they did with these 3 dials in here. As you can see, you can click on them to have them perform different settings for the car. So in the case of the ones for the temperature, they will work for your heated and ventilated seats, and then also for the temperature. And it's super easy to use. Yes, it means that to reach them, you have to take your eyes off the screen, but as you can see, there is redundancy there on the screen that is closer to where your eyes will be. So it really makes for a more satisfying and safer way of interacting with the car. Simply clever. For the ones in the middle, then they have more functions that you can customize to have up to 4 at any time. So they start with the actual speed for your fan, then the region where the air is coming from for your climate, the volume for your media, and then in this case specifically here for the driving profile that we will go into a little bit more detail. But then taking our eyes off of this for a little while and then talking about the big screen that we have here in the middle, it is this new suite of technology that we are getting with the VW, Audi, Skoda vehicles, and it has been seriously improved in terms of the performance that it has. It is a lot more responsive. The definition on the screen is really good. It's definitely a big step forward rather than what they had when they first introduced this system. You can go into specific settings for your car. As I said, there is one to customize what the smart dials will do. You can do a lot of things in regards to how your vehicle is configured, lights, windows, displays, and then also the assistant systems. And considering that this is an all-wheel drive car, you can go into the off-road system, and then you can customize a few specific displays as to how your wheels are working underneath you, and then also your altitude, a compass, and a few other things that will be important as you are going off-road. There will always be shortcuts accessible to you at all times for the things you will be using most of the time, such as the volume or maybe even the brightness, with a few other items you can customize in here. Of course, the start-stop as well in these different modes for the off-road bits, the driving assistance systems, and there is just so much for you to see and customize if you scroll down into these menus. Then of course the automatic parking that includes a 360 camera that's always very helpful, and then coming back again to the settings of the vehicle itself. One of the big things here that is an RS specific part of this configuration is that if you come to the driving profile, this is then where you can see all the different modes that you can switch using the rotary dial down there. Right now we are in normal mode, which has just a little bit of that fake or generated engine sound, but then if you go into sport, it should get a little bit louder. And then very quickly, by just switching to any of the other modes like comfort, for example, you can see it go completely quiet. So then to really make the most out of this customization, you can then come into individual and configure it in a way that you want, so that if you want the sportiness of the drive, but you don't want any of the fake sound, this is how you would achieve that. So if we were to change, for example, to off, it goes super quiet, and then you can terrorize the bends without having to rely on any of this fake engine sound. And I bet that if I put it in neutral, we can get a... It almost sounds like an RS3. I really think that this is the car that they recorded the audio from to make it sound like this. But I think we'll sort of try and see if it drives like an RS3 as well.
We have actually been chatting back and forth about what we think the soundtrack comes from, because it's definitely not the note of a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. And so far we've narrowed it down on an RS3 from what we can hear. But if you in the comments know what it actually is, then please do feel free to share that information with us. 2025 celebrates 130 years of Skoda's history. That's a long time, so it's a brand which certainly has its fair share of history, and it's also about 50 or 45 years since Skoda's 130 RS hit the rally stages and hit sort of the motorsport world. So that Skoda RS badge is actually steeped in history, and in New Zealand here, the Kodiaq RS is one of 2 RS products that we get, the other one being the Octavia. And in the SUV space, certainly it's unique, and how we've seen Skoda go head first into that SUV space over here with the Kamiq and the Enyaq, and all their products do so well. But this Kodiaq sits alone there in its performance space within the Skoda brand, and it is just, yes, it's practical, it's simply clever, all of that, but this is so much more about the fun aspect, about the entertainment, the theatrics. And I think with, yes, that sound generator might be a little bit fake, but it delivers all of that entertainment, right? It's what you want.
It absolutely is, and I think that it is mostly about not taking itself too seriously, but doubling down on the pedigree that it definitely does have, as you just explained to us. And even more so considering that it is coming from a brand that is within their umbrella, right? So they're not trying to go too crazy out there with something that just doesn't exist. And the great thing about it all is that it is so customizable, but then, because then when you don't want it anymore, you can just turn it off, and it becomes then this refined experience that still drives pretty much the same, just leaves a little bit of that sound out of the equation. I really like it.
But I mean, you can always use the individual mode as well if you want the car to be driving in a more sporty fashion, but for the exhaust to be a bit subdued, right? So there is that customization goes even further there. And I think the whole car is just so, not just user friendly, but also driver friendly. You know, the way it's sort of, there's a gentle centering of the dashboard around the driver. There is that screen which sort of, you get this wraparound effect of the cluster. And then the seats themselves, which make you feel cocooned and certainly held in place well, but not too tightly and not too loosely either. There's, a fine balance to getting stuff like this right, and I think Skoda have done that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not an easy equation to figure out, to get a 7-seater SUV that has to have enough room for the whole family and stuff, and still try to inject some adrenaline and some engagement to make it drive the way that it does. And it is something that you don't have a lot of options for in the market out there. And it's great to see that they really nailed this balance so well.
Obviously, we put Harry in the third row because that's what we do on Tarmac Life. We put the tallest guy in the smallest space. Luckily, he's not claustrophobic, or at least as far as we know. And, well, it was, let's be honest, space was a bit tight back there for you. I understand, obviously, most people would not put the 6-foot-something person in that third row, but it's still important to test. I think the bigger thing that was raised was the middle row, actually. We feel that it's probably a little bit compact in terms of its space there, and certainly the opening of the door and all of that can make it a little bit difficult if you're taking child seats in and out and all of that stuff. The other thing to note is, while these seats with the integrated headrests and wide bolstering are brilliant for the front driver and passenger, they do kind of block out the light and certainly the vision forward for the passengers in the middle row. So that's something else to note if you do have people spending a lot of time there.
Completely agree. There is no free lunch, right? The way that they managed to get an SUV that can sort of perform like this is by making it not too large like some other in the competition. And then the way that you sort of accommodate for that in the interior is giving a lot of room to those that are at the front. But the second row was definitely a little bit too cramped, especially for sort of adults and if you are using the third row all the time. So it definitely doubles down on the idea that you will be doing most of the driving and using the third row more as a thing. It's not there all the time.
I think the other thing to note is, for a 7-seater SUV to be under 5 meters in length, but still I would say the third row is usable, even for adults on short drives. So it is a true 7-seater rather than just one that's sort of temporary or only in name. But look, obviously you're not watching the review for all of those things. You're watching it for the performance and the drivability aspects. And as you can see, Harry has found some twistier roads right now, which he is pushing the Kodiaq RS a little bit more, and it's holding its ground well, I would say. Around these corners, we're not shifting from side to side. I do get a little bit car sick, I have to say, and my lunch is still, within me rather than out. And fortunately, if it did come out, there are bin bags as well in the door cubby, so Skoda has thought about me, so thank you for that.
It just means that I need to try a little bit harder then.
Oh no.
And it's great to see that the car actually comes alive with you as you push it harder a little bit more. And it's very common to all of these cars that share this platform, this powertrain, that they have this very predictable dynamic, right? That they have heaps of torque down low because of the refinement this engine brings to the equation. Of course, assisted by the all-wheel drive system as well. And it is just, it never does anything that you are not expecting. After the limit, you sort of go into a very predictable understeer that is just so engaging and really unexpected from a 7-seater SUV.
And I think when you do turn it up into the sporty mode, that DSG gearbox just comes alive with the quick shifts, and when you drop it, lets the exhaust kind of breathe and make some noise, which is all part of the fun of having something like this. So the idea is, when you drop the kids off, you drop the extended family off, wherever they need to be, you can hit the back roads.
Yes. Rather
than taking just a motorway sprint straight down.
Completely agree. It's the car that you will take the detour for the less travel road on the way back, because it rewards that kind of driving. And as you said, the gearbox performance, The dual clutch really works with you for the downshifts and the upshifts. When you are not going for it, it is extremely smooth. And then when you are going, it performs exactly as you would anticipate, and it puts the power down really confidently. It is a car that masks the speeds that it can do, and it just invites for you to lean on it a little bit more. I love it.
And at the same time, it's not this crazy sort of animal or brutal vehicle, because what you can do is just put it into comfort or eco mode, slow on down, hit the motorway, trigger adaptive cruise control, and have a nice relaxing drive, going where you need to go. And it does that job as well extremely well. So there's so much in the character of this car that you can change just by flicking the switch, and also being a little bit harsher on the accelerator or the gearbox.
And on that regard, Skoda have put so much into this car, right? You get heated, ventilated memory seats with all the adjustability you need. As you said, the adaptive cruise control works really well, and it has all the other sort of almost autonomous kind of driving, wireless projection, wireless charging. It has everything.
It is packed with features, but I have to say, yes, it delivers a lot, but there is the price to factor in. It is 95,000, knocking on the door of 100,000 is a good bit of money. And considering that the next model down from here is the diesel Kodiaq TDI, and that is about 72,000, so a 23,000 step up into the next level up is quite a sizable jump. Yes, you do get a lot for your money, but it's just food for thought that the diesel TDI is actually a capable car in its own right, although it doesn't do this, right? So there you have it, the new second generation Skoda Kodiaq RS. It takes the family favorite 7-seater SUV and puts a performance spin on it, while still ensuring that it's livable, it's usable every day, it's practical. But when you need those times to just put your foot down to hit the back roads, it's got plenty in store for those moments as well.
That's exactly what it is. It gets all the things that you would expect from a 7-seater covered. It adds the RS-ness to it to make it just great on these back roads without leaving any of the simply clever behind. So good.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and also keep an eye out for our TV show as well. You'll see the Skoda Kodiaq in there too. See you next time. Okay, so we have to talk about the Kodiaq RS and where it's 7-seater performance SUV. There's not many of these around, particularly in this price range. And so it's not just a facade, the badges, the seats, that's not fake. There is actually substance to its performance ability, and the noise to go with it as well.
And no better way to try and do that than shifting modes. Come on. For nothing. What are you seeing?